the property management industry, fair housing offenses are considered especially troubling. In the United States, a dedicated fair housing attorney, Leslie Tucker, provides case explanations and best practices. These are some cases.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fair Housing Insiders Case Files, Episode 14 with Leslie Tucker, the principal at Williams, Edelstein, and Tucker, and I'm your host, Jonathan Saar. So, Leslie, this case that you're going to review with us today, it makes your skin crawl in more ways than one. So can you share how one property's refusal to let a disabled person receive aid, how it led to a buggy situation?
Sure, Jonathan. So this case was brought on behalf of a disabled tenant who had multiple physical disabilities and used a wheelchair. The tenant reported to the property manager at some point that he had bed bugs in his unit and he needed an exterminator. Management gave him, as a matter of procedure, gave him a bed bug prep list, which included a list of actions that he had to take prior to the first treatment. And some of those actions were, he had to strip his bedding, he had to empty his dresser, pull furniture away from the wall, vacuuming, kind of things like that. I think those of you that are in this industry are probably very familiar with this type of prep list. So the tenant, because he has a number of physical disabilities, he contacted a third-party organization that has experience with this type of prep work to come assist him with these tasks. So when the aides that were assigned to, his work order, essentially, when the aides showed up to the building to help him and begin this work, they allegedly were not permitted to come into the building. He did explain, these are the aides that are coming here to help me with my bed bug prep, but they still were not permitted to come in and help him do this work. Because of this, his bed bug treatment was severely prolonged because he was not able to receive assistance to timely prepare for the treatment. The complaint alleges that he was subsequently under eviction for quite some time, although the complaint does not disclose the specific reasons why that he was under eviction. He did file a complaint with HUD. HUD investigated and issued a charge of discrimination. The housing provider did dispute these allegations, for the record. Ultimately, this case did settle, and the defendants ended up having to pay $15,000 to the plaintiff's estate because he was deceased at the time of the settlement.
Interesting. Okay. So that begs a couple of questions then. So can a housing provider require tenants, residents, to prepare their unit prior to a bed bug treatment?
Absolutely. And housing providers should. Many companies that I work with have prepared lists that have been provided to them by their exterminator companies. And they should require it. It should be part of their lease or house rules that tenants have a responsibility to assist with the preparation for these types of treatments. So that is not an issue here.
Okay. So thinking of this tenant who needed help to do this, so can tenants be required to comply with the community's policies by themselves without assistance?
Well, so the law is that tenants have to be able to comply with their lease terms with or without assistance. So since this particular tenant was not able to comply with his lease terms, i.e. the bed bug preparation, he could not do that by himself. So by law, he had to have an approved reasonable accommodation to get assistance to do that. So yes, housing providers must permit their tenants to get assistance if they need it in order to, to comply with their lease.
Okay. Very good. So if a disabled tenant needs assistance without completing a required task, is the housing provider required to arrange for that assistance?
Yeah, so if someone with a disability has to have assistance, like this particular tenant in this case did, the housing provider is not legally required to pay for that assistance, to arrange it. That's really ultimately up to the tenant to do that. Now, if your property does have that kind of service, like if you have a service coordinator or social worker working with you, that is their job, then yes, certainly, their role is to step in and to offer assistance in, finding that help, possibly even arranging for it. So if you do have someone on staff whose role is to arrange for that type of help, then yes, you would do that. Otherwise, no, it really is completely up to the tenant or their family to arrange for that help and to make sure that, the assistance comes and is effective.
Okay. Very good. So thank you again, Leslie. Appreciate your insights on this case, a situation with bed bugs and needing assistance. So it helps provide some insight to all of our community. So appreciate your comments and explanation of this particular case file that we discussed today. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our community for tuning in. Until next time, take care, everyone.